Alrighty, welcome back to another edition of PIAA High School Football Report. Special thanks to our season-long sponsor, OSS Health. Tremendous folks there. I'm Eric Epler of PennLive. He's Dan Sostek of PennLive. Buddy, the train known as the PIAA High School football season is now in the garage.
I can't believe it.
It took me a long time to write that sentence.
Yeah,
I had to come up with, what do you park it in? What do you park a train in? It's not really a garage. What do you park a train in?
I think you park it in a station, right?
That's a good point. Station, yeah. But if you're but you don't perform maintenance in the station, right?
Yeah, no.
So I don't know. Let's just call it a barn.
Might. I don't know. I'm not a train guy.
Well, I will tell you this: there are many repairs needed to the lead engineers. That would be you and me.
Oh yeah.
A heck of a long season. A lot of fun. Do you have a departing shot for us right off the get go? Do you have a departing shot? Boom. What you really enjoyed during the last 16 weeks of your life?
I mean, it's been a busy year, right? Like a lot to do. I don't know. I don't know what you're asking. Honestly, I'm just trying to vamp for time.
Well, there's something that just sticks out, and in your frontal lobe there about the season that you're always going to sort of hang your hat on the 2025 football season, like something you really thought defined it. Maybe you need some time to think about it. I don't know.
I guess like
these plans, Dan.
I guess like the lack of competitiveness as we got on throughout the season. Like it kind of felt like that we didn't get a great weekend to end the year. I think that's fair to say in terms of the quality of the games. And that it just felt like a lot of these teams were destined to win. There were a couple, I would say kind of upsets, but they weren't upsets the second they stepped on the field, right? Everything kind of got clarified. I don't know. I'm not good at you're putting me on the spot here trying to sum the whole season up in like 5 words. I don't know why.
No, I'm just that's legit. You came up with a good answer. You're a good, strong, award-winning reporter, and you came up with a good answer. It was not.
I still need my coffee, man. I can't.
Your coffee's close. Keep it close. I get it.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about this, but you're right. There were. I always believe, and again, it doesn't happen this way because there are some unbelievable matchups throughout the playoffs. We saw a lot come down to the wire on the last play. We saw game-winning field goals on the last play. For Bishop McDevitt, which we were running with all season long. We saw what can only be described as a sprint-out carnival ride completion from Torrin Evans in Susquehanna Township to win that game against Wyomissing in the postseason and keep their chances for a district title alive. So we saw a lot of that stuff personally, and obviously there's been a lot of that stuff across the state. I always think when you get to this stage and you get to the 16th week of the season, everybody's banged up. Everybody's tired. Everybody's cold, certainly. You're outside. It's probably about 9 degrees. And you're playing. And I just feel like it never ends perfectly either way. I just feel like it never ends without some sort of snafu for you. Even when you win, it always feels that way. So I don't really take the 20-point wins. I don't want to remember those teams. I don't want to remember Farrell as a 20-point loss to Southern Columbia.
Yeah.
The 2A final. I don't take that. I don't work that against Farrell. Because getting to this point is an unbelievable, massive undertaking. A lot of luck, a lot of skill, and you lose by 20 to a machine that is Southern Columbia. I still don't think you have anything to hang your hat for.
No.
So that's just me. I'm feeling a little flowery on this particular Tuesday.
Yeah, you're trying to get big picture at 11:40 in the morning. I respect it.
It's early. It's still early. Yeah. But I didn't sleep real well. Anyway, all right. I guess my main point is we don't whine. There's not a lot of whining. No. A lot of like basically the last week in college football. I'm done.
Oh no, you're not going to refuse to play in a bowl game because you didn't get what you wanted.
I refuse to play. I refuse to host a podcast.
Yeah,
let's just do that too.
Yeah.
What is happening, Dan? Why can't we all be like Narduzzi and the Panthers? We will go anywhere.
Yeah,
And
we'll
play
go play
anyone.
Eastern Carolina in the Military Bowl.
Yes. And if somebody said, "Here's free tickets to the Pinstripe Bowl or free tickets to the Military Bowl," I'm going to see Narduzzi in the Military Bowl. I don't care, because you know what? All this just craziness surrounding college football is getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Getting absolute out of hand.
Yeah.
Penn State has a new coach. What do you think?
Hey, he's a Mount Union grad, so that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Started his career at Pitt. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, right? James Franklin's obviously been a frequent visitor around these parts,
Yes.
and I just wonder if Matt Campbell's going to be as much of a public face walking around the high schools. And I know you kind of have to do that now, but James Franklin really liked doing that, right? And I'm interested to see what his because that was the one thing when James Franklin got fired. A lot of the PA high school coaches were pretty upset about it because he had fostered a pretty good relationship with a lot of those guys. So
He did, yeah.
I'll be interested to see if Matt Campbell, at least from our perspective, how much he attacks PA as a recruiting ground.
Well, they'll keeping Terry Clark was the most important nugget in that.
Smith, not the Susquehanna Township.
Sorry, Terry Smith. In that situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, that guy is you don't get better men than that guy.
Nope.
So and he's got a relationship with everybody in the state, and so that was a great move by Penn State.
Yep.
All right, Dan, down and dirty. Over the next 30 minutes, as we take a look back at championship weekend at Cumberland Valley's Chapman Field, we're going to start with the 1A game, and the Clairton Bears back on top of Pennsylvania football in Class 1A, 35-3, an absolute dominating performance against Bishop Guilfoyle, who obviously has a long history in these state championship games as well. I don't think this one surprised me, because the way Clairton was obviously playing and putting up points, and their defense was great. But, I know a lot of people thought that Guilfoyle had a legitimate chance to win this game, and I think Clairton came out early and just decided that was not the case.
Yeah, I said going into the week, I felt pretty good about Clairton just because I feel like when Clairton's good, they're really freaking good. And this felt like a really good Clairton team. And, one of the things people were saying around obviously I'm not a historian like some of the other people who were there are. Some people are saying that was one of the best defensive performances they've seen in a state title game in a long time. I think they held Guilfoyle at a -1 rushing yards, which is quite the feat when you're in a championship game against a good team. So, I mean, obviously it's for as good of a program as Clairton is, they haven't won since Tyler Boyd was playing quarterback for them back in 2012. So it's a big moment for that group. They're very similar to some of our programs that we have around here, where there's just so much toughness and grit, and they play a lot bigger than they are, and they were just flying around on was it Thursday night? I can't even keep track of the days.
It was Thursday afternoon to open things up. Yep, it was the 1A game, started the festival, 6 championship games. Yeah, this is 77 total yards on 47 plays for Bishop Guilfoyle.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't do that to that team.
No,
I mean, Jake Kissel came in, Justin Wheeler, obviously, just one of his worst performances probably in his career.
Yeah,
still completed 13 of 18, but 2 picks, only 61 yards. He was sacked 5 times. I mean, and obviously on the other end, we got another really good performance out of Lovelace Pompey, their running back for Clairton. Another big Brandon Murphy day. He had a touchdown reception. And Jeff Thompson, the quarterback, only 2 incompletions in that game. I mean, you do that, that's a dominating performance. And obviously hats off to those guys. It's been a long time. It's been kind of a long time coming for Clairton. Who absolutely was always in the news back in the, kind of from the, I would say probably like 2004 on, for that 5 or 6 year stretch, was pretty impressive on what they were doing.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to the 4A championship. This was Thursday night at Chapman Field. Southern Lehigh the District 11 Dynamo. If you recall, I had Southern Lehigh ranked in the top spot for the first 6 weeks of the season, moved them out and moved Twin Valley in right around that time. And they come up with a big 43-21 win over Twin Valley. This was an impressive effort by a kid named Sean Steckert, who everybody knew was about, I don't know, 85 yards short of 3,000 rushing yards coming into this game. And he did a little bit of damage, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy, right? Because you look going into the game, you look and see he has 2,900 yards and 40-something touchdowns, right? But we see that all the time, right? And then you keep getting further along in the playoffs, and you start to look a little more human, He looked like he might have had I mean, I imagine that's what he did all season long, but he might have had the best game of his career in that game. And we know how good that Twin Valley defense is. For someone to do something like that to them is pretty crazy. And they just really didn't have an answer. I also thought in that game, Southern Lehigh's they were more aggressive, right? They were going for the kill throughout the game. I thought Twin Valley, you get kind of why they were being conservative, because with the way Stecker was moving the football, they didn't want to give them short fields. But at a certain point, everything felt like a short field for Southern Lehigh. Like they were just they just kept moving that offensive line. Obviously, Stecker did a great job of that offensive line. Really moved Twin Valley back a lot. It was just a dominating performance, and it's crazy because Southern Lehigh lost to the 3A team that didn't even win the 3A title in Northwestern Lehigh. So just goes to show you that something I was saying, I think, earlier this week, which is that when you get to these middle classifications, they really are pretty – when you get these top teams, there's not a huge difference, I don't think, between like a 3A champion and a 4A champion. I mean, there's probably a little bit, but it's nothing. Obviously, if a 4A champion can lose to a 3A title team, especially a 4A team that looked as dominant as it did in the championship game, it just goes to show the depth of PA football. But man, that Stecker performance will be something people in Southern Lehigh will be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, it was just an unbelievable performance by not only an individual, but that offensive line was tremendous. Stecker doesn't need a lot of space, but I think most people think, the way he's built, you think, oh, it's a tough kind of north-south runner. I mean, he is really fast, really quick to the edge.
And his cuts are so subtle, right? Like
it almost like a pitter-patter, similar to what Drew Engel on the other side for Twin Valley is kind of like. I mean, excuse me, Lucas Myers for Twin Valley is more that north-south guy. He gets through the hole extremely fast. Engel has the pitter-patter. Engel can squeeze through the tiniest hole, get really small, break through the hole. Next thing you know, he's 7-8 yards downfield, and you're trying to catch him. Stecker is a little bit of both. But you're right. His moves, that he was so smooth and just knew exactly what he wanted to do. I guess they call that vision, because there were some times when I thought, because we were standing in the end zone on the sidelines, and there were some times where you could see a little hole, a little gap open up in between the tackles, but yet boom, all of a sudden he popped outside. He chose that way, and it was obviously he made all the right decisions running the football in this one. I thought the turning point here to me was the missed field goal. It was 7-7 game. Twin Valley goes down the field. I believe it was 4th and 4. I don't know. I want to say like maybe on the 7 or 8 yard line, and they elect to kick the field goal. And a little bit of a bad snap. Schaefer's kick comes off a little left. They miss. And then, from that point on, it seemed like Southern Lehigh, it seemed like the Spartans had the upper hand. And Twin Valley was sort of chasing the rest of the way, even though it was only a 1-score game for a long time. So congrats to Southern Lehigh. Tremendous effort in that one. That's their first. Both of these teams were going for their first title. I believe. Well, Twin Valley had won their first district title just 2 weeks before. So congratulations to those guys as well for getting here. I know it stings. We got a chance a little bit to talk to Brett Myers after the game, and but man, what a whale of a season for them, and obviously full congrats to Southern. Tremendous effort there. All right, Dan, let's move on to Friday. Two very interesting matchups. Farrell kind of in that Clareton mold, getting back here. These two tangled. It was the nugget, the pregame note that everybody had 30 years ago. Anthony Pegues, the Farrell coach, was the quarterback of record that beat Southern Columbia in the championship game, and now his son Anthony was quarterbacking against Southern Columbia again, who had an off season for them, for their standards. Everybody knows the name Southern Columbia when it comes to 2A championship games. 14 prior under Jim Roth, who's, I don't know. I think he's top 5 or top 6 nationally in wins, with 520 walking into this game. So, and Southern comes up with a 43-22 win in their 15th title under Jim Roth. What do you take away from this one, Dan?
Yeah, again, it's like another program where you just kind of trust a team like Southern Columbia when they're running through a postseason like this. You have to trust what Jim Roth does. You have to believe that when they're rolling like this, they've figured some stuff out. And it sure looked like that in this game. I just didn't think it just felt from early on there wasn't really much of an answer there, and so you have to credit them.
Yeah, the options too in this wing tee that they run, and it's a little bit. It's not as the historically tight wing tee like you normally see, but just I mentioned this against the McDevitt in the McDevitt game, which we'll talk about in a second here. Just the options that they have offensively. I mean, their running backs, there's 3 or 4 guys that can run it. They all were either 65 yards or better in this game, led by Grady Garcia, who had the big 3 touchdown game, 110 rushing yards. And they just once the lean, I always call it the lean. Once the lean happens, it is really hard to stop the lean. Because the offensive line just sort of digs in you. They know how they can use that leverage to kind of just get people out of the way, and that happened quite early in this one, and there really wasn't much that Farrell could do to combat that, especially offensively, because the run game just was not there. The run game just didn't work. All of it fell on Aaron Pegues, the quarterback for Farrell. They really had no answer in the run game against Southern Columbia, and the points just kind of started piling up. If the end of the day Southern Columbia has 350 rushing yards, you're not going to win that game against them.
No.
You're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So obviously, congrats to Southern. They took 1 year hiatus. I think they were 7-5 last year, and then it turned right back around. I'm not sure that I think Jim Roth has had one in his tenure, which is 40 plus years. I think he's had one non-winning season, which means they were like 5-5, and that might have been in his first year or something like that. So the numbers that he has attached to his resume are just simply ridiculous. So congrats to Coach Roth and the Tigers. They're certainly deserving 2A champ again. All right, Dan, 5A, Friday night. This was one that we were all looking forward to. It was a rematch of last year's championship, won by, we've said it before, the ugliest, most beautiful field goal ever made in Bishop McDevitt history. The overtime winner from Aiden Grella for a 34-31 win last year. So a rematch. Roman was ready for this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was really funny because Jeff Wechter kind of after the game basically said, when they lost to Aliquippa in 2021, right?
Yeah.
That all off season they were like, we're going to get revenge. We're going to get revenge. And then they built all off season up to doing that. And it feels like the same thing happened. He said this was their 2021, 2022. This game was never in much doubt, right? It just felt like, Roman Catholic had every answer. It could have been much like the score doesn't even indicate how big of a blowout it was. It was just it's weird because McDevitt did have chances, but it was more chances that Roman Catholic kind of allowed McDevitt to have, right? Kind of some mistakes they made let the team back into the game. And but McDevitt wasn't able to capitalize on that. And then Roman, you wrote about it. I'll let you talk more about it, but Roman's secondary was just unreal in this game.
Yeah, they were really, really impressive. And McDevitt's wide receivers, obviously a very good group of receivers. Traditionally, they're running against guys who sort of don't want to get beat deep. So there's a little bit extra buffer. They're not coming up and stacking them and really being, 2 yards in front of them at the line of scrimmage. So there's a little bit more room to operate throughout the season for these guys because A, you don't want to get beat deep. B, the cuts to the inside, those kind of like midline slants or even quick slants, things like that. You don't give up huge yardage. You may give up 7-8 yards, but you don't give up huge yardage. The secondary for Roman was pressed up against the receivers all day. They did not really they would give them the outs, quick outs, or a little rub route here and there. But it wasn't, they knew everything was going to be in front of them anyway. That's how confident they were. And then when push came to shove and sort of certain down and distances, then it just became very, very difficult to find a receiver. I mean, McDevitt hit a few late, and I don't necessarily think Sebastian Williams played that bad, but the quarterback for McDevitt. But he did have 2 interceptions. One clearly wasn't his fault; it was a deflected pass. But McDevitt just had so much trouble getting any kind of flow, any kind of consistency. To remain in this football game, and for the opportunities you mentioned that McDevitt missed, Roman missed a bunch too. So it just could have been a lot worse than what it ended up. Just the talent of McDevitt alone that kept it within respectable, if you will, in a 28-6 ball game.
Yeah, because that was the crazy thing is it's not like Roman Catholic. They didn't really get their run game going. I think they had the correct game plan. They said, you know what, the way to beat Bishop McDevitt is to do it through the air. And they did it through the air. They played a really, I think I think Rick Preet knew exactly what his team had to do. We could kind of tell when we were talking to him earlier in the week. There was a confidence to his voice, right? Not a cockiness, but a confidence that if his team did what it needed to do, that they would have a big night, and they certainly showed it. And again, we talked about before, but what a job Rick Preet has done at that program, right? An afterthought in the PCL to clearly a team that doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. I think they just got a quarterback that moved from New Jersey coming in next year to replace Samaj Beals, so it looks like they'll be right back in the mix next year too.
Yeah, just so many options on that offense too. Ian Steed was the big play guy, 9 receptions in this game for 102 yards and a touchdown. But Ash Roberts had a touchdown. Hanif Sheed had a touchdown reception. Just a dominating performance for Roman Catholic. So good for Coach Preet and the KLAs, which I don't know. What is a KLA, Dan? Do you know?
I believe it's a 13th century Christian. I have no idea, but I think it is it's obviously some religious. It's some religious thing.
I was generally interested in how you going to finish that.
They're followers of former Oakland Athletics pitcher Trevor Cahill. So
there you go. All right, we got it.
That's what I was thinking.
All right, one more day to talk about, Dan, and that's Saturday. I think we lucked out tremendously on the weather on Saturday.
Oh yeah,
you could actually see the sun a little bit. It was not 9 degrees; it was more like 35, which was fabulous. And the wind stayed off until the very end of Saturday, but we had a 3A championship game, another dominating performance. Whitfield champ Avonworth 31, Northwestern Lehigh 7. What do you take away from this one?
Another one of those rematches, right? Where
yes,
last year it went one way, this year went a completely different way, and I don't think this one is quite as. I mean, I guess both of them we kind of I think. Especially the McDevitt Roman Catholic game, you kind of knew Roman had a little bit of a leg up with the talent this year. This game, I think people pegged to be closer. But I think once the game kind of started, you always look for which team it looks easier for, right?
Right.
And it looked pretty easy for Avonworth at times. Luca Neal just had a turn. He was very like reminiscent of Stecker. The numbers didn't necessarily show it, but he had his fingerprints all over the game, both offensively and defensively. The crazy thing was, I believe Avonworth turned the ball over 4 or 5 times,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of self-inflicted stuff too. It was just a weird football game, in that respect. But yeah, Avonworth. That I imagine the first ever high school football team called the Antelopes to win a state title. Although maybe down North Dakota there's some more Antelopes or something like that. But
I don't know where antelopes are. Where are they? Are they in the
they're
Midwest?
home on the range. That's part of that song where the antelopes roam.
Oh, so okay, so
Or no, the buffalo roam. Yeah, uh,
Southwest.
yeah. Well, they're also in.
Are they in like the plains?
They're in Africa too, right? Because they're in the Lion King. That's what kills Mufasa, the antelope stampede.
I don't know.
But yeah, regardless, they were stampeding in that game. It was just a dominant performance. Yeah, I think 7 combined turnovers. Um, yeah, just a really good win for. I believe they said the first ever boys title in any sport for Avonworth. So really cool moment for them. Usually you don't get football as your first ever title in anything. So pretty cool.
Yeah, true. It's usually like cross country or something.
Yeah.
You get that first, and then you get yeah. I look at we always sift through the numbers, and the one that absolutely stands out to me is 56 plays, 187 total yards for Northwestern Lehigh. That's 3.3 yards per play. I can't recall when Northwestern Lehigh has been held that low. So just to do that, Avonworth, they deserve all the accolades and all the hardware for holding that team down, and obviously getting the win in the rematch, similar to what Roman Catholic did. So, all right, Dan. Last but certainly not least, was a 6A championship game. Everyone looks forward to this game. LaSalle College High School, which has been the darling of District 12 all year long. 34, Pittsburgh Central Catholic 20. I enjoyed this game. I don't think it was as close as the final score indicated, but I give Central Catholic credit because this could have ballooned really out of control. Late, of course, Joey O'Brien made sure it ballooned out of control. But LaSalle had some chances early, but I think it was just sort of the mettle of the Vikings that kind of kept them in this until the fourth quarter when O'Brien just basically turned this game on its axis.
Yeah, I think a fun conversation that was, we're in that media room, right? There's a lot of conversation going on. Fun conversation I was like, if you had to pick an overall state player of the year, who would it be? Would it be Samaj Beals? Would it be Gavin Sidwar? I think after that game, Joey O'Brien has thrown his name right into the mix, right? I imagine that goes right up there with one of the most individually impressive state title games performances you've seen. And I wasn't at the game personally, but from afar, I can't imagine many people have impacted a state title game the way that he did. Obviously, he's the top ranked recruit in the state. It goes
Right.
between him or Kevin Brown. But you don't always get those guys proving it the way they did, just like that. And it was a special performance by a kid that's a pretty special player.
Yeah, he said he had heard some chatter during the week about, obviously his status as PA's, top player.
That's not a smart idea to chatter that kind
I would not. Yeah, I would not provide that. I don't know where the chatter came from, but I'm sure there's channels that teenagers follow that I don't follow because I'm old.
of.
But yeah, I wouldn't have poked the bear to say that because the only thing he really didn't do is catch a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
As a receiver. I mean, he had 10 receptions in this one, 98 yards. He threw a touchdown pass, which kind of started this, this kind of surge by LaSalle, in a 4th and goal situation from the 2. And then he, in the fourth quarter, had 3 interceptions in just one quarter. And then, returned the last one 95 yards to the house to seal it for the Explorers. So Yeah, I would not have poked the bear for sure because he absolutely proved his status as PA's top recruit, and this was a really strong performance by South College. It was a physical game, and a lot of eyeballs on this one because there were probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess between this class and the next two classes for these two teams, there was probably 15 FBS guys running around the field. So it's always interesting to watch these one. And of course, Gavin Sidwar is the Missouri signee, 21 of 29 in this one, 188 yards, 2 TDs. He didn't have to be brilliant, but he made some really smart decisions and took a sack when he really should have, and just to protect the ball. And it was just a lot of fun to watch. And this was LaSalle's time. I mean, I feel bad. Pittsburgh Central Catholic obviously back in the championship for the same, for the second year in a row. Last year they lost to St. Joe's Prep, 35-7. This one was obviously closer, but still not able to kind of get over that hump. But I think the better team checked out with the 6A title for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, Dan. So your best memories of the weekend. I know you said you weren't, thrilled with the actual. We didn't really have a tight game other than 6A before, O'Brien stepped in. No, we didn't have too many tight fourth quarter games getting into the fourth quarter with sort of, unknown outcomes. But what was some of your best memories of the weekend?
It's hard to not go anywhere but Steckard. That performance was just so special against a really good defense. It was cool too to see after the game him and his friends, his teammates had a prayer circle. It was they were very kind of composed after the game as well, setting obviously the 3A state title game record. Or 4A rushing title game record. And to me, that was the game that most classifies as an upset, right? So it to me, that's going to be the one that sticks out. That obviously, I wasn't at the O'Brien game, so there
Right.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are two good ones. For me, I thought, we talked a lot about Coach Preet. One of the absolute good guys in this profession. He's exactly where he should be, leading this squad. I thought, him getting that dub too. I thought it was important, and I thought for his quarterback Samaj Fields, which you mentioned earlier as well, just being as poised and as determined as we thought he was going to be, or we saw all the intangibles that he brings to the field. And a lot that he brings off the field as well. So I'll take that away, from Roman Catholic kind of beating this. And again, it's nothing against McDevitt or anything. Like I said, I don't think the Crusaders played that awful.
No, I thought that's the thing. That was the weird thing. It was entirely what Roman Catholic did well type of thing. Like, I mean, those receivers too. We talked about the defensive backs, but those receivers for Roman Catholic are a problem too. It was a championship level performance.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Another thing too is, we talk about the difference, and we were joking a little earlier about the college game and how everybody's whining now about the CFP and the coach's situation and NIL being out of control and it being the Wild Wild West and all those things. And thankfully, high school football has not trickled down to high school football yet in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm not saying it won't, because typically it's that 5-6 year window, right, where things just start trickling down, and and it's not always for the better. But two situations that we ran into as media members, and I want to throw these out there because this is really why we talk about some of these coaches and why they're so vital in the progress that your kids and these players make. And it's not just becoming better football players, right? It's about becoming better men and better athletes and better students and all those things. And I saw, and again, I didn't see this part in person, but I had 4 or 5 colleagues, members of the media, come up and tell me this. Josh Snyder, who's the head coach at Northwestern Lehigh, obviously defending champs. They're back. Another rematch with Avonworth, and got pounded pretty good. You know, I don't think anybody saw a 31-7 game coming from this. I thought many people thought Avonworth could win, but not by that margin. I thought it would play out similar to how it did last year, and last year was an overtime game. But Josh Snyder, after bringing his team in to the field house after the game, it was about a 15-minute difference. Avonworth's obviously still on the field celebrating. This was Saturday afternoon. Josh Snyder went back out to congratulate personally on the field the head coach of Southern Lehigh and some of the players. That's a class move.
Yep.
That's pure class, because it's very easy in that situation to say, we just got our, you know what, handed to us, 31-7. Let's get our stuff, get out of here, get on the bus and go home. You know, they didn't do that. So I feel compelled to tell folks about Josh Snyder in that particular moment. Another one, you were there, Dan, I believe, head coach Brett Myers in Twin Valley.
Yeah.
Again, whose squad is sitting there devastated. They were in the back part of the field house where the media members were in the front part. And we didn't hear a peep from those guys. And Brett Myers swings his head around the curtain that Cumberland Valley has set up in the field house about 20 minutes after their game, their 20-plus point loss to Southern Lehigh. It says, gentlemen, I just want to say thanks to all you guys for everything during the year. Thanks for all your coverage and what you guys do. We appreciate it. Back behind the curtain, on the bus, and gone. That's a class move. I have covered, and I told you guys this. I told you and Ramir and all the guys who are working with us, Evan and Megan. I've covered hundreds of these championship games in my very long, because I'm an old head, career. And not one coach has done that until that Thursday night, until Brett Myers did that. So that to me says a lot about how these guys and I know we go through a lot of situations, Dan, particularly in the offseason too, about coaching changes, and we shake our heads and why are these administrations doing this? Why are they opening up this coach position who is just the perfect guy or the perfect woman to lead these teams? And they're head scratchers, you know? So for these guys to be in charge of young men at these two places, and again, where I'm singling these two out, but there are hundreds of examples.
I mean, you could look right at Jeff Wechter and Rick Preet. Rick Preet spent half of his interview talking about how much he respects Jeff Wechter, how much he respects Bishop McDevitt. He talked to us about how Jeff gave him advice after their loss last year about how to handle kind of losing at that stage.
Exactly.
There's a lot of mutual respect in this area. I think it's cool to see a lot of the time.
Yeah, I agree. And those were a couple of things that stood out to me on championship weekend. The last thing too, Dan, is I truly believe that Cumberland Valley does an unbelievable job. The logistics they have down now, they can't do anything about the cold weather, unfortunately. But this is their fourth year now at Chapman Field. I think it's the right spot. I think the PIAA thinks it's the right spot. So the championship should go on for a long time, as long as Mike Craig is there, the athletic director, and all the guys who help him. It's a tremendous effort to put these things on over 3 days. And, they treat us well. You enjoyed the meatloaf, Dan? Right?
Oh, it was terrific meatloaf. That should have been my memory from the weekend.
Was not popular.
That should have been my memory from the weekend, is the meatloaf. The chicken wasn't quite as good, but the meatloaf was outstanding.
There you go. So they do a hell of a job, and we just wanted to kind of call them out too on the job that they've done now for the past 4 years. So, but that should do it. That's a wrap on the 2025 high school football season in Pennsylvania. Congrats to the 6 champions. Congrats to the 6 finalists, other finalists who made it. We had a lot of fun on the show. A lot of good guests, and obviously this podcast will continue past this point. But Dan, I want to appreciate your help. Mm-hmm. And obviously we've had Bruce Badgley on, we've had Evan Wheaton on.
all the guests as well that were
Yep,
terrific this year. We really appreciate that. Coaches, players giving us time out of school, out of work, out of game planning to come talk to us two idiots for a couple minutes. So
exactly. It's been a fun trip. Long 16 weeks, but well worth it. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the PA High School Football Report. For Dan Sostek, I'm Eric Epler. Appreciate your time, and as always, come back next week.